welcome back to
Brother.
another episode of the
Brother.
Impact Wrestling Podcast.
Oh,
It is
that's what it
Thursday,
is.
May 6th, and we just got done watching the latest episode of Impact on Access or Impact on Twitch, whatever you got. Speaking of Impact on Access, we didn't get a flashback moment of the week this week, and I feel like we were left out.
Yeah, that's I guess a fair point. So I was watching on Twitch, and we got a lot of moments, but I was actually pleasantly surprised because there wasn't repeats this time. We didn't get the Brooke Tessmacher winning and saying "I love Texas" like 3 times in the show. They didn't play Steiner Math once.
Oh
This week.
my!
Yeah, no, they did like a fresh group of moments. Like they showed the Elix Skipper off the top of the cage at the common one, but there was like some America Most Wanted winning the titles. The James Storm like speech after he won the title. They played like the entire thing, which I was like, this is going on for a while. But they actually changed the moments up, which I've been saying since like the beginning. I'm like, they have a lot of moments. They should stop just showing the Steiner Math.
Yeah.
So that was kind of nice. We'll see if like it changes or this is like their new cycle of moments for the next 6 months.
Yeah,
We'll see.
that definitely is something to look forward to. I'm wondering if maybe this is in part of like this whole like I guess advertisements thing for Impact with how they're running the promo of if you type in the promo code Rebellion X, you get 2 free months of the Impact Plus. So they're trying to show off some of the other moments that they don't always show.
Yeah,
Try to
that's a
get
good
people
point.
to look into it.
No, that's a great point.
Yeah, but like I said, that we didn't get a single Impact flashback moment. We didn't even get a commercial for Impact Plus this week, which was weird because normally we get at least like 2 or 3, and we got 0. So unless it was just on my channel in New Jersey, maybe other people who listen are gonna be like, I got Steiner Math every commercial break.
Yeah, let us know if that is the case for you, because that wasn't the case for us.
Yeah. So before we go into this episode, I feel like we should address the statements that were made on Twitter and Instagram today by former Impact champion Bully Ray about how Impact should be angry and upset that Kenny Omega isn't carrying their belt around his waist or on his shoulders. He's making Nakazawa, a jobber, carry them. And ODB,
Knock a nobody.
Yeah, knock a nobody. And then ODB chimed in saying, "I agree." I don't have an issue with it solely because that is literally the gimmick that Kenny is doing, is that he's just a collector, doesn't really care. His big focus is the Impact title, and everything else is just to kind of make him look cooler. And he's just trying to annoy people.
Yeah, his focus is the AEW title, and everything else is
Yeah, and I think he's doing a great, clearly he's doing a good job if he's angry or making the old guard of Impact angry about his actions. I don't think that like the higher ups of Impact are like, oh my god, my title is around knock a nobody on Impact. No, it's getting highlighted on the show still by Kenny.
Yeah.
Like he has a bunch of titles. He's not going to be able to wear all of them. And if he has goons like Callis, like Nakazawa, who can like hold them, he's going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I see nothing wrong with what Omega's doing. It's hard to get real heat these days, so actually getting, a reaction out of someone like Bully Ray, I think, is a great thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and what you said earlier, it's either way, he's bringing the title to AEW. He's not even bringing any of the titles when he comes to Impact. So,
yeah, the AEW title, I think, has only been on there when he wrestles. Like every other time, he doesn't even have that title like anywhere close to him.
Right.
Like it was on the bus when they were just doing segments in the RV for a while.
Yeah, but like this week, he was on this week because I guess he has to be on every single week, and he had no titles.
Right.
So.
Um, all right. So with that said, I don't think there's really anything else that needs to be gone over. Um, what did you think about last week's Angelo? Since you weren't on the podcast last week's
Oh yeah,
episode.
I thought it was good. I mean, the way they brought out the show, it really makes you excited. I mean, the roster's not huge, but they had the whole roster come out, and I mean, yeah, you lost your title. Everyone wants to get it back for Impact now. So I think that was a cool way to do it. I think Jake something versus Chris. I'm not going to go into every match, but
Right.
Jake
Obviously.
something versus Chris Bay. I think that was a great way to open the show. I wasn't sure why Rohit wanted to stick his nose in, but then that led to our before the Impact match. But overall, I think having the 6-way at this what's the Under Siege
Yeah.
they're calling this pay per
Hmm.
view. Who's the actor? Steven Seagal has a movie like Under Siege. I keep seeing people on
Um.
Twitter
Yeah.
putting that. It's like, oh,
Probably.
yeah, right. It's like, oh, it's the title of a Steven Seagal movie. I'm like, oh,
Yep.
sure,
Steven Seagal, 1992.
nice. So yeah, they're ripping. It's maybe he'll win the title. Maybe he'll be like the seventh entrant in the match or
Yeah.
something.
Yes. Please.
So one can only hope. But no, I mean, this is I think going in the right direction after the title loss or Kenny Omega winning the title. I do wish they did more with when they said Johnny Bravo was going to pick up Kenny Omega. I wish that was like a scene.
Yeah. No,
You
I
know,
agree. That would have been fantastic.
that would have been fantastic. Like Johnny Bravo, like he goes, oh, Dino would do it. Still calling him Dino Bravo is probably one of my favorite things going on right now. But
I don't know, man. I think his names today that he gave out were fantastic.
oh yeah, also that too. But yeah, those are definitely my comments I could think of for last week's Impact.
Um,
The match though, Kenny Omega versus that other guy, Rich Swan, it was pretty incredible. I mean, it was clear like the whole way through Rich Swan was the underdog. He was just getting beat up, beat up, beat up, and I guess the whole idea is like, is he gonna, turn it around? And he never did. So overall, pretty good match.
yeah. Um, I think the last thing I'm going to ask about from I guess last week and kind of this week is of the six qualifying matches that they announced. Were you shocked at anybody getting an opportunity for 6 man? Do you think somebody else should have been in there in their place? Because we've got as of so
Um,
last week they announced it was Sammy Callahan versus Eddie,
that makes sense.
Cardona versus Myers, which happened.
So the matchups specifically, I don't know if
Yeah,
those made sense. The people in them, sure. Brian
yeah,
Myers and Cardona probably are in the top 12 right now, but to face each other again after just facing each other and basically just trading wins. Eh.
yeah. As I said last week, I thought the reason they did that match specifically was because of how their match at Rebellion ended with the injury. Like I think it that they ended that match quickly after the injury, like the injury scare, because they thought it could be serious, and then
Okay.
they realized it wasn't serious, so they just had them run it back again.
Okay. When
That's
you look at
my
it that way.
assumption.
Yeah, when you look at
Um,
it that way, that makes more sense.
yeah, because their second match was so much better than the match at Rebellion.
Okay. Right.
Um,
There it was a good match on the show last
yeah,
week.
Jake something versus Chris Bay. You already said you thought that they made sense, and then this week being Moose versus Storm, I'd say both of those people make sense. Rhino versus Saban, I think they make sense. Uh,
Rhino's probably the only fringe where you're like, sure, he makes sense sometimes. It's just like how he's booked. And right
uh,
now he's just like the third best man in Violent by Design. So it's
yeah, I was gonna say the only other fringe person was probably
Rohit.
Rohit Raju
Yeah, and the
against.
Rohit was definitely questionable, and especially I mean, we watched before the Impact. I know you did. I was
Yeah,
watching some of it. I joined in halfway, and then I was like, oh, we got a match. And Shira's still green. It's
yeah,
definitely obvious. It's a shame because he's the big body. You would think he's the better of the duo, but Rohit's just still definitely way better technically on the
yeah.
mic, in the ring. Just everything is his game right now. So he's gonna get more of the heat than Shira will in any like rivalry or any match. It seems like, but Rohit being in The top 12 is like, kind of debatable.
Yeah,
I would have
I'd agree
probably.
with that.
Is there one person on this roster though that you would have rather seen? My answer is actually going to be Hernandez.
Um, one person on the roster currently, I would say. I mean, if you're throwing Rohit in, I would have just said Ace Austin. But
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
clearly he's not done with the X division.
right.
Even though he's had title shots in the past. Honestly, I would have said TJP just to get him out of the X Division title scene,
That's
which
true.
we'll go over later in the show what they're doing for the X Division title next week and for Under Siege. Speaking of TJP, that is the episode of Impact in 60 is the best of TJP and Manic, and got to see him win the X Division title as
Okay.
Manic over Sanjay Dutt and Greg something Monascula, which is just Trent Beretta, or Trent from the Best Friends.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like fresh off his WWE release in
Okay.
like
Okay.
the early 2000s. It was an Ultimate X
Wow.
match, and Manic wins, and the crowd is very lukewarm about it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which I think is great that you're showing that. Like he was, I guess, the top baby face in this match, and they're just like, yeah, we don't care, it's Manic.
Yeah, I guess his fame from his one match in Wrestling Society X didn't carry over
Yeah,
to this
clearly.
this match.
All right, so going into the main show, or we'll start off with before the Impact, and I tuned in, and I was like, oh, I'm probably gonna get right into the match, and nope, I got in, and it was right before the Iceman intel. And I was like, oh boy, what's the Iceman got for us this week? And his Iceman intel is that he is getting multiple calls that a competitor from last week's qualifiers is threatening to take out the competition in order to get another shot at joining the or the 6-way at Under Siege. So clearly that meant it was 3 different people. It could have been Jake something, it could have been Eddie Edwards, and it could have been um, Brian
Brian Myers.
Myers. Yeah. And I was like, okay, well, who had a match that or who's a heel who is like complaining, oh yeah, Jake something's a baby face, and he's the before the Impact match, so he's not going to be threatening to take people out. Eddie Edwards has already gotten a match announced for Under Siege, so he's not going to pull double duty. That leaves Brian Myers, who didn't lose controversially, but he thinks everything is controversial when it comes to him losing. So that's who they must be referring to. Um, then we got our match. It was Shearer versus Jake something. It wasn't a bad match. It wasn't a great match. There were some parts that I thought were good for both guys. I think Jake something really, I'd say he stole the show in this match out of the two of them. But that's not really saying much. I think Jake something has a very high ceiling as a wrestler. He's not the greatest on mic, but that's normally because he doesn't really talk too much. Like him on Wrestle House and stuff, his cousin Jake was great because he had a personality. But since he got rid of being cousin Jake, he really doesn't talk too much.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good point. He's just kind of like your top like baby. Well, he's like in the Willie Mack form where he's like a baby face that could take a pin right now,
yeah,
but he could be so much more. I agree.
yeah. Um, oh boy, this next match is TJP with Falaba versus Vikingo of AAA, who I didn't know
Oh,
ever showed up in Impact, but apparently this was literally right before the pandemic, and it's in February of 2020.
so we
Uh,
missed this one just
yeah,
barely.
and it's so weird seeing something from 2020 with fans, um,
Yeah.
like a full house. Um,
Wow.
yeah. So yeah, pretty decent match. Jake something wins via the Black Hole Slam, and then we go to our main show.
It's a
Um,
pretty good black hole slam too.
yeah, My one downfall of this match is solely D'Lo Brown claiming that this happened at least 3 times. So Shearer went for a reverse bear hug or a waist lock. And every time D'Lo Brown kept on yelling, he's got control of the wrists, or
Yeah.
he's grabbing him by the wrist and the arm. And it's like, no, clearly it's the waist, D'Lo. Do you not know your body? Come on.
Oh man.
But other than that, I thought this was a good way to, or I'd say a solid way to start off. Um, then we got our main show starting off with Saban versus Rhino. And when they announced these matches last week, me and Pat kind of like predicted who our 6 people were going to be. Not on the show, but like in our group chat. And like, I think we all assumed that Rhino was going in because it's Violent by Design, and Violent by Design kind of needs somebody to represent them to look strong. Um, this was a strong match. Rhino dominated most of the match. Commentary kept on hyping up Chris Sabin, saying that he is always the favorite to win matches because he's part of Motor City Machine Guns, which I thought was weird considering as a singles competitor, I feel like that's kind of Sabin's gimmick, is that he's overlooked in kind of a plucky underdog story, especially going up against Rhino, who basically his entire persona has been who can beat Rhino. Like he's always considered like a top threat whenever he wrestles, even if he's not treated as a top threat, just because of who he is and like what he like his size and everything. I thought these guys had really good chemistry. I thought this was a really strong match to kick off with. Um, and I thought it was really surprising to see Chris Sabin pulling out the win.
I didn't think it was too surprising, but I get what you were saying, like to have a representative of Violent by Design in this, but I guess they're just gonna sit out this pay-per-view.
Yeah. Hopefully they don't just throw in another random like 6-man match so that Violent by Design is on the card, because we already have a 6-man match on this card
Right.
that's like actually interesting. And don't really care. Like I don't want to say I don't care about Violent by Design, but like I don't need them just being on the card for shits and giggles. I will continue to say that I think that Violent by Design would be smarter if they had like a representative X division. Like you could do that with Diener. Like he would fit that
Yeah.
mold, and then have like Joe and Rhino like kind of run roughshod over the. You could have them as a tag team, and then I mean, whenever Eric Young comes back, he's obviously the focal point. But I don't know. Maybe
That's
they
always
get
what
somebody
makes a
else.
stable cool is like when they're dominating multiple facets
Right.
of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as they aren't like completely ruining everybody's momentum and, you know, or being literally the entire roster a la
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like
NWO.
right, or main
Or,
event mafia
yeah.
taking up half the show. But no, that would be really cool. I mean, like I guess it's like a Team Canada type of thing where it's like they have a couple titles or they're gunning for a couple titles, so they're all like relevant but in different aspects.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Um, so after this, we find out that Brian Myers is the one who's complaining, like we assumed. And he's throwing tables and chairs, and Gia Miller shows up and is like, "What's going on?" And Brian Myers is like, "Why are you always around?" And he walks over and tries to flip another table, but Rosemary's just laying on it. And Rosemary is like, "Oh, you keep on. Do you think you're doomed to keep on doing the same things? Well, here's your card." And she flips over a tarot card, and it's something I couldn't really read off of because when she flips it, Impact decides, hey, let's throw in 4 different color schemes and put like distort the cards a bunch, to make it all spooky. Brian Myers is like, yeah, so whatever. And like then all of a sudden Black Taurus just attacks him. And then the Decay stand over him. Rosemary reveals another tarot card, puts it on his face, and is just like, that's your actual card. Laughs and walks away. I said in our group chat that I assume that like Decay is going to like just keep on attacking Brian Myers, and Cardona and Myers are gonna reluctantly tag together at like a show, and that's how you get them back together, I guess. Which is kind of unfortunate because they'll definitely be the face team against Decay. Even if Impact likes to claim that Decay is a face team, they definitely are not. Every time they come out for matches, they get cheers, but they are 100% a heel group. They cheat. They beat people down after matches. They beat up people backstage for no reason. They are a heel group. Um, I don't know.
It's
I don't see somebody else coming to the aid of Brian Myers other than Cardona.
I mean, think about it though. If they're gonna do this for this May 15th pay-per-view, you got Cardona, I guess, tied up.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to be for the at Under Siege. I think that you
Okay.
might have Myers go and be like, "Oh, I'm just going to face one of them at Under Siege," or he'll like pull out some random person to tag team with him at Under Siege. Realize he has no chance again with them, and then that's how like they could just keep on beating him up, and you can have that at the next show because I don't think anybody sees Brian or Matt Cardona winning the 6-way
Yeah,
to get a title shot.
that's
I just don't see Cardona in the world title picture.
yeah, no, not with Kenny Omega here.
No, and not with a few of the other guys in this match. Um,
Right,
After this, we got elite segment. Callis, the Good Brothers, and Omega. Again, as we pointed out, Omega has 0 of the titles that he owns with him.
right.
And he talks about how, I come from a show, I come from a promotion that actually cares about wins and losses. And you guys are really nonchalant about, like, you guys losing all the time in big matches.
Okay.
So you guys need to get your stuff together. And you know what? To try to get you guys to focus up on winning more, I'm going to be out there. And Carl Anderson says, "Oh, Coach Kenny's coming," and Kenny says, "Yeah, well, I don't know if you know this, but I used to coach high school girls basketball." Um, and that's how the segment ends. Um, I don't know if that's legit. That's a really weird flex that Kenny Omega coached high school girls basketball.
Yeah,
I
quite a
feel
weird
like if
flex.
anything, it was like he was like the team manager in high school or something. Because I don't know, I don't see Kenny Omega as a basketball person.
Neither do I.
Um, After also wins and losses should matter. I 100% agree with that. However, I wouldn't say that Gallows and Anderson have been nonchalant since losing the titles. I feel like when they haven't lost that much on impacts after they lost the
Oh, not
titles.
at all.
It's just they lose to Finjuice.
Yeah.
And apparently Finjuice versus the Good Brothers is the only tag teams that they care about because it seems like we're going to continue this feud for a while. Um,
I
I
was gonna say, I guess because of the world title picture being such a big thing, having 3 matches tonight, no tag matches tonight.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that was
otherwise,
that was
yeah.
kind of surprising. Um, After this, we got uh, I have written down here. It was for I understand what it was furthering. Um, there were a lot of just weird moments in this match, like Taylor Wilde head scissors or Hurricane Rana Susan really quickly. Like she never got her legs around her, and Susan just like kind of like tried to fall over, but then realized she was too close to the ropes, and like then tried to stand back up and kind of got tangled in the ropes. Um, there were some other points where like they these two just didn't have chemistry at all,
Yeah,
and it felt like
unfortunate.
it also felt like they just decided, hey, let's rush this match real quick, because it ended up with Kimber literally pulls Taylor Wilde down and tries to attack her while the ref is watching, and the ref does absolutely nothing about it. And then Caleb just picks Kimber up and just holds her on his shoulders for the rest of the match. While Tennille does like a neck breaker on the ropes for Susan. And then Taylor Wilde wins, and Tennille comes to celebrate. And Taylor Wilde, who did not see what Tennille did, freaks out that Tennille wants to be, or that Tennille is standing next to her. I don't care about this at all.
I mean, you could plan this out like 2 months in advance. So you feel like you see where this is going. It's going to be Taylor Wilde versus Tennille, Taylor Wilde versus Deanna.
Yeah.
This is just the one rivalry before her title shot,
Yeah.
basically.
Well, it's weird because Tennille has been very vocal that she just wants to be tag team partners with Taylor Wilde, and Taylor Wilde doesn't want to be a tag team wrestler. Like she's like last week, she cut like Tennille was like, "Hey, you want to be my partner?" And she's like, "No, I don't want to be a tag team person anymore. I've done that already. I've won the tag titles multiple times here. I want to win. I came here just to take the title from Deanna." And like Tennille did not. It was like, "Oh, you're gonna be my tag partner then."
Yeah,
And
doesn't get it.
yeah, like I said this last week that I thought it was very concerning that Tennille gets beaten down after her first title shot in God knows how long, and immediately goes to, I don't care about the world title anymore, or the knockouts title anymore. I just care about the tag titles. But I don't have a partner. That's kind of concerning that like she had a really good match that ended stupidly, and then got beat up, and she's kind of just like the filler person for Taylor Wilde to show up. So
Yeah, true.
I, I don't know if Taylor Wilde. I guess we should point out that since our last episode of the Impact Power Hour, Deanna has announced that she's in a title for title match at Triple Mania for AAA in the end of summer. Normally, it's the end of July, early August. So that would take us past
Slammiversary. Oh
Slammiversary.
crap.
And so
Huh.
my thinking is that it's not going to end up being a title for title match.
Yeah, that's
And
too
that
long.
Deanna's going to lose it beforehand, because there's no, like, I just don't see Deanna holding this much longer.
Yeah, I feel like you're right. It can't be
Like
title versus
I
title.
think she's 100% going to win it under Siege, but I think whenever she faces Taylor Wilde, she loses.
Yeah, I agree, and it could be at Slammiversary.
Yeah, Slammiversary or Against All Odds. We've got
True.
2 shows before that AAA match, and like it wouldn't shock me if like that match still happens and it's just for the AAA title or or women's title. Like they've had women's champions like take it and be on Impact before. Like Taya had it for like almost 2 years, and she barely ever showed it on TV. So just like Kenny Omega barely shows
Yeah.
the AAA Mega title. I'm sure that is what will happen if Deanna wins that
Does
title.
AAA run weekly shows, or are they like New Japan?
So I don't know too much about AAA other than that since the pandemic happened, they're basically just doing pay-per-views,
Okay.
and they're very spaced out pay-per-views. Like they did Triple Mania last year in the fall, or not the fall, in the summer. Then I think they might have done one other show in between now and, or in between then and this other pay-per-view that just happened, but there might not have been. I'm not 100% sure. Because Mexico has been taking it really seriously, the pandemic.
Yeah, yeah.
Like Triple Mania was run with no fans. This one was run with some fans, and it was all outdoors.
Okay.
And I don't like, if they did do another one, I don't think they had fans at it either.
Gotcha.
So not sure if they like, if normally during the year they run weekly, but I don't think so to my knowledge. I think it's kind of
Okay.
just random shows.
Gotcha.
After this, we got Deanna being interviewed, Deanna is asked why is she being a coward and not being at ringside, and Deanna says that she's not being a coward. She more thinks that Kimber and Susan actually need to earn Deanna at ringside because they haven't been performing up to her standards. And she thinks that they need to show that they can win without her out there, which props to her. That's something admirable. However, she's a cowardly heel, and we all know the real reason. Uh, Out comes Rosemary and the Decay, who freak out Gia Miller for some reason. Um, and Rosemary just basically runs Deanna down for being a coward, for not being a fighting champ, for avoiding every challenger. And Deanna says, "Oh, I'm a fighting champ, and I'll prove it." And then Havoc shows up and is like, "Oh, you don't have any challengers right now, so how about I step up?" And Deanna says, "Well, now I've got two people who want to challenge for it, but you haven't really earned it because you guys haven't had singles matches in a while or any matches in a while. So how about I go talk to Scott and we set up a number one contendership match between you two for next week, and the winner faces me." And then she walks out of there. Um, After this, we get a W. Morrissey vignette. Um, I thought this was a really solid vignette. Basically, him talking about how whenever people look at him, you might think you know he is. You might think, oh, you're the guy that was partnered up with this silly small little guy with a catchphrase, and I'm one half of that. I'm not. I'm bigger than that. I'm more powerful than that. And then talks about how he doesn't hold it against people for uh, not caring about him. Um, he doesn't hold it against people uh, for basically um, not liking him, but what he does hold against everybody, the wrestling industry, the fans, bookers, is that they turned on him once he started going through shit, once he started having demons show up, and that brought him down. And he's in better shape than he's ever been to prove doesn't need to do it with a partner. He doesn't need to take on the wrestling industry with the help of the fans. He's going to do it his way. And I thought this was a good promo. I think it's a very accurate promo that I think a lot of people did turn on Cass once he separated himself from Enzo. I think people turned on him once he started to show some of his mental demons with alcoholism, getting out of shape, anxiety, stuff like that, and just assuming that, oh, he's just a shit human being because he hasn't gotten it checked out yet. We don't know everything that's ever happened to the guy. We don't know, like, he doesn't like go around parading like all his personal life, so I can't vouch for anything he's ever done in his life. It's just been rumors and speculation about like, oh, he's an alcoholic who's might have been abusive. There's no proof that he was abusive. Nobody's ever said he was abusive. They just Carmella broke up with him, so he must have been abusive while he drank. Or people saying that because he drank, he just didn't care about his body anymore. He didn't care about anybody, and that's why he got fat. So I think that it's definitely interesting to see how he does. Hopefully, he does have his mental demons uh,
If it
on
wasn't for
check.
Impact, he would have always been like that big what if,
Yes.
because I mean, and he still could be. He's still got a lot to prove, but he had like a glimpse of having a singles run, and then he got hurt, and then he had a lot of the personal demons to deal with, so he never really got his time to shine after the breakup. But
Yeah.
yeah, I hope the best for him and Impact. Just to be clear, so he's not going to be part of Violent by Design. Has that been established?
Yeah. So it was established that Eric Young brought him. He's a mercenary for hire, and that Eric Young paid for him to replace him at Rebellion,
Ah,
but that he has been signed and he wants to do it his own way. Um,
gotcha.
And I pointed out last week that it's good to have two people that are basically mercenaries for hire in Impact with him and Hernandez.
Oh yeah,
Hopefully they just form a tag team as the mercenaries.
yeah, mercenaries for hire.
Yeah, I'm down for it. After this, we got Rohit versus Trey. I think we assumed once this match started that this was going to be a good match. Both of them are just really good.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, there, it it didn't start off like super crazy, but commentary was making it seem like it was like one of the greatest matches they've ever watched. They were
The
screaming.
overselling. Oh my goodness, the overselling on the like one armbar move
Yes.
was killing me. I was like, yeah, it's a submission. It's, I guess it could hurt, but they were selling that like that was like Undertaker's like Hell's Gate or something. It was pretty freaking ridiculous. But yeah, I get what you're saying. They were definitely overselling like hell, and they were very excited on commentary for what wasn't a super crazy flying match, but it was a good match overall.
Yeah. So right at the beginning of this match, they start off like trading moves and countering each other. But they did it really slowly because it was basically just submissions they were breaking out of each other. And then what should I call it? Rohit does an Irish whip, of like a very hard and fast
Right.
Irish whip of Trey right into the ropes, and Trey falls down, and it goes to commercial. And as we're going to commercial, Matt Stryker yells, "Tell me somewhere else that you've ever seen wrestling like this," and like basically anywhere, bud.
Yeah.
Basically anywhere. I think everybody's done a hard Irish whip into the ropes before. Um, but yeah, these guys know each other very well. They know how to counter each other very well, which is great. They're two of the smaller guys for for the world title picture. Like they're more traditionally focused on the X division, or at least they're known for their X division work. So I think it's interesting that this was a match. This is unlike say Chris Bay and Jake something, where Chris Bay is known for his X Division work, but Jake is kind of known for just being a bigger guy. Yeah, he's been
Right.
in the X Division, but he's a bigger guy. He's not like a small guy like Trey, Chris Bay, Rohit. So this was definitely an interesting match to have another smaller guy in the title picture. Um, but I thought this was a really good match, and I think the right person, or the person we all expected to win, won, with Trey winning with his hourglass hold, which I still think is a pretty good submission move. Um, any other thoughts, Angela?
No, no, nothing else on that for me.
Cool. After this, we get the return to Swingers Palace, and it's a loaded card in here, folks. We've
Oh
got the
my goodness, there was
Swingerellas.
a lot that happened there.
Yeah, we've so in the room at the beginning, we've got the Swingerellas, we've got Swinger, of course, we've got his new bouncer, Hernandez, or as he calls him, Senior Hernandaddy. We've got Johnny Bravo as the roulette table man, uh, also known as Dino Bravo, according to Johnny Swinger. We,
Sometimes. Yeah.
sometimes, most of the time. We've got Chris Bay just standing. We have who I'm pretty sure this is the first time we've seen Chris Bay in Swingers Palace.
This might be, yeah.
We've got the usuals of James Storm, Chris Sabin, and Alicia Edwards. Alicia Edwards has now lost all of her money, so we've got our second bankruptcy in in here, and we also have Matt Cardona, who I think has made maybe this is his second appearance in Swingers Palace, with the first one being at Hardcore Justice before he gets put into a match with Swinger. Swinger's
Yeah,
just
I think
okay
you're
with him
right.
being there now.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, short term memory, it seems like.
Probably. I mean, he does claim to be a 26-year-old male.
Right.
Um, and so Alicia Edwards loses all her money, and Swinger says, "Oh, you're out of cash, and you gotta walk Walk the plank, you sea hag.
Yeah, that killed me.
uh,
I'd be like, what does that even mean?
yeah. And Alicia says, I really like it here. I'll do anything to stay. And Swinger says, anything, eh? I think I can figure out something for a pretty girl like you.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Oh dear Lord, Swinger.
Uh,
Um, and then Trey Miguel shows up, and he's like, "Oh, I hear this is the place to place some bets on some action. And since we're all in this match, I think put we should give me money, or I should put money on myself to win this title. I think everybody else should put money on me as well because I can't lose." And then basically everybody in the match is like, well, I'm in the match, so I'm going to put money on myself. And then Chris Bay, being the ultimate finesser that he is trying to get under the skin of Storm and Sabin. And Sabin flips the fuck out, slamming his hands multiple times on the table, which prompts the chips and the money to
yeah,
fly.
just keep flying. He loves that place.
Yeah, he doesn't want to leave. He doesn't want people to tarnish it. Um, and basically, he's saying, Chris Bay is basically saying, if you guys are both in, how are you guys gonna work? Like, you guys are a tag team, you guys are friends. There's no room for friends in this match. You guys have to know how to go against each other. Can you guys do that? And Storm is like, oh, I see what you're trying to get at. Uh, and he says something. I forget what it was. But Chris Bay just answers back with, what century are you from? Which is basically the epitome of, are you a boomer?
Yeah.
Um, and basically this leads to him convincing Sabin to say that he will not accompany James Storm to ringside for his match against Moose. Um,
Yeah.
and then he also tries to get Storm to say what his favorite tag team partner was.
Yeah, that didn't work.
Yeah, Storm refused to say that. But yeah, absolutely a fantastic segment. And then when this is all going on, Johnny Swinger starts laughing like his giggly self, and then says, "I'd call that Jeopardy, Vanna," which is great combination
Yeah.
of two different game shows.
On the same channel, at least.
Yeah, and then as the segment ends, Chris Sabin says, "Well, I guess that leaves just you and me tonight. Tonight, Swingerella number 2,
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I've
What
just
is the implication here?
yeah. The new assumption is that apparently Chris Sabin and James Storm have been having threesomes
Yeah.
with Swingerella number 2.
Yeah.
What a segment this
What a
was.
twist. Oh yeah, what a segment overall.
After this, we get Doc Gallows or Luke Gallows or the Big LG, whatever you want to call him, versus Juice Robinson. Uh, Gallows comes out with Don Callis, Kenny, and Carl. Again, no title belts with Kenny. And then Juice comes out with Finley, obviously. Um, and this was a good match. Again, Gallows actually caring in a match. It's good to see because when he cares, he actually is very good.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I guess they showed a little bit of Juice Robinson like 2 months ago in singles competition, but this is like, I guess at least a good refresher for me since I don't watch New Japan. So it's nice to see them in action because they haven't been on Impact Television in a while.
Yeah. Yeah, the Juice normally isn't a singles guy. For the most part, he's known as the tag guy in New Japan, minus the G1, where basically they just throw in all the bigger names into it.
Gotcha.
And he did have a good run in the G1 last year. New Japan Cup this year, he didn't have that great of a run. I think he lost in the first round. Um, David Finlay, on the other hand, normally is never used in the G1. I don't think he's since I've watched New Japan. I don't think he's ever been in it. But he
Okay.
did have a fantastic run in the New Japan Cup this year, getting into the semifinals, and also beating Jay White in a big surprising match, which I believe his record going into that match against Jay is he was 0-13 against Jay White in singles competition
Oh wow,
beforehand. So huge win
huge
for him.
upset.
And a lot of people basically said this was like a big uh, showing up party for uh, Finley as a singles guy, and hopefully they see him in the G1 this year. And next week they did announce that David Finley will be going in singles competition against Carl Anderson. That could be a really good match because
Yeah, it
when
seems
they
like it,
both
especially if he's working on his singles competition chops. And Carl Anderson, we already know, is a very, very talented wrestler.
yeah
So yeah, that could be match of the week.
yeah um, Juice ends up losing this to Gallows, and then all the elite come in and just start beating up on Juice. Finley gets in there. He gets beaten up. And then
Eddie
Eddie
Edwards.
Edwards runs
Yeah.
down and he gets beaten up. But he kind of puts up a fight. And that's when they announce for like the second time during the show that uh, the at Under Siege it'll be Kenny and the Good Brothers versus Finn Juice and Eddie Edwards. After this, we get Deanna, Susan, and Kimber are about to leave the impact zone, and Scott shows up and says, "Hey, I heard what you said earlier. You should be on the booking committee because I think that's a great idea. Next week we will have Rosemary versus Havoc, number one contendership. Winner faces you at Under Siege because you don't have a match at Under Siege, so it's perfect for you."
Right.
Um, After this, we get VSK versus El Phantasmo. It is El Phantasmo's debut in Impact Wrestling. For those who don't know El Phantasmo, he is part of Bullet Club. He is part of the junior division for the New Japan. He's never won the junior title. He's won the junior tag titles twice. He's won the Super J Cup back to back years. He's, I believe, the second person to ever do that. He is the slimiest of heels. He is the one of the best people on the mic. Um, and he's fantastic in ring. I thought this was a really good match for a squash match. I thought both of them had really good offense. VSK really showed himself. This is the first time I've ever heard of VSK. This is the first
Yeah,
time
same.
I think he's ever been on Impact Television since we've watched.
Yeah, this was definitely
And
his debut as well, which it's always interesting when you have like a guy that's clearly supposed to be the jobber and they kind of, blow you out of the water. They do a lot more than you would think they would do. Kind of like Alan Angels
yeah,
in AEW. So it happens very rarely, but it's always very cool. That's how Goldberg debuted in WCW. He was supposed to be a jobber who I forget who he was going against, but like the WCW booked him to win the match, but he came out with a jobber entrance, no entrance really, just the black tights. That's why he kept the black tights, and
right.
he upset it, and that's what helped pick up so much steam. I think like that way of bringing people in, and it's like, oh, don't think anything of them, but they just really impress you with the work in the ring. I think that's just a great way to do that. So if VSK continues to perform for Impact, I think he's got a bright future.
Yeah. Um, so El Phantasmo ends up winning with Super K, which they called the Sudden Death, which I like that name. He's to my knowledge, that has never been the name of it.
Yeah. So
In
so
New
this
Japan,
super kick.
it's just a move. Yeah, it's just a super kick. He brought this out like he's an indie guy, so everybody does super kicks.
Yeah.
But during the pandemic, he did not wrestle at all. He didn't travel anywhere. He just worked out and worked on himself. And then during returned to New Japan for the Super J Cup, and his whole thing was all I did was like work out. I didn't do anything in the ring. all I did was kick trees. And he kept on saying that that's how he got it. Like, that's why he kept on doing the super kick to people, was because he can kick trees so hard. But then, like, they basically at the end of the Super J Cup, it was revealed that he had loaded his boot, which uh, they
Okay.
did not establish in this match at all. But Matt
They
Striker just immediately says it was a loaded boot.
well, so yeah, Matt Striker starts out when he's going for the super kick that he's saying like some people, I guess some people say that it's a loaded boot or that he's got something in there, and then D'Lo Brown like trashed him at the end. They're
Yeah,
like, oh, not we, you can't, you got to use a loaded boot to win a match. You're so
yeah,
talented, yeah. So they kind of jumped onto that real quick. So that's why I was
yeah.
confused there for sure, and I'm sure it left some viewers confused. I'm sure some people already are watching the New Japan product, but Impact definitely should be more mindful of not everyone's watching everything.
Yeah. And like it would be one thing if like he like after the match he like took off his
Took
boot
it
and like
out.
something fell off or something. But like
Yeah.
him just raising his making the ref raise his boot, none of that signifies that it was a loaded boot.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like commentary by like kind of burying him as a heel. Like they did the right thing there. I guess
Yeah.
that's what you're supposed to do to try to solidify it. 'Cause it's not like you're seeing him slip something into his boot. It's kind of just like him shaking it, like there's something in it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
After this, we got Kiera Hogan versus Rachel Ellering. This was a good match.
yeah,
Rachel's really good in the ring, and her and Kiera actually had pretty good chemistry for people who like for somebody who just showed up into Impact.
yeah. I think we
This
forget
being,
Kiera is a pretty good wrestler.
yeah, I think it was just the fact that she kept on she was paired up with Havoc and Nevaeh for like 4 or 5
Yeah,
months
that
straight.
helps nobody.
Yeah. um, so yeah, this is a good match. Wasn't particularly long. Rachel wins, and then afterwards we go to the back, and Fire and Flavor are complaining, and Jordan and Rachel show back up and said, "Oh, I thought you said last week you just need to wrestle us a bit. You just need some time, and you're going to be able to beat us." And uh, Tasha and Kiara are like, okay, Jordan, we don't want to talk to you. You're a non-factor in wrestling. Like, you're not important. The only person we have to worry about is Rachel, and we just need to wrestle her more, and then we'll beat her. Every match against you two is basically a 1-on-2 handicap match that
Yeah,
Rachel's winning. Um, and then Jordan is like, okay, I've had enough of this. Next week, Tasha, we've never gone against each other 1-on-1. Let's see how much of a non-factor I truly am. So next
certainly a
week
hot take from them.
yeah. Next week, we have Tasha versus Jordan. We have Carl Anderson versus David Finlay. We have Rosemary versus Havoc for number one contendership for the Knockouts title. And we have a 6-man scramble for the number one contendership for the X Division title at Under Siege between Ace Austin, El Phantasmo, Rohit Raju, TJP, because of course he's there, AC Romero,
Wait a
and
second.
Petey Williams.
They better if Petey Williams, that's pretty cool. But if AC Romero wins this match, are they gonna break out the scale like they did with Brother Ray and Brother Devon? They gotta weigh 270.
I don't know, man.
I hope so. Someone's got to keep it real.
It's still real to you, damn it.
It's still real to me, damn it. Yeah.
Um, Finally, the
AC
last match of
Romero.
the night. So before they reveal the card, or after they reveal the card, they show Moose like in kind of working out and just stretching out, and the music's playing like they're gonna go to commercial break, and Don Callis interrupts it, which I thought was great. He like comes over to talk, and they like shut the music off because they're like, "Oh, wait, let's listen to this." And hey Moose, why are you stretching? I know you have a match tonight. Why? Why would you want to be in this match? Because don't you realize that you could hurt yourself in this? if you make it in. You could hurt yourself against James Storm. And you already lost to Kenny Omega in a tag match. So what makes you think you can make it to against all odds if you end up winning that match, if you don't get hurt in any of these matches? Like you should just be careful about like things. And you saw what happened last week in the main event. Kenny might not like that you're in this match. And Moose basically tells Callis to shut up. He says, I'm starting to really not like you after all you've been doing in Impact. And I'm going to do what I want to do. I want the world title, and I want to show that I'm the best in the world. And then walks off. And this is obviously Moose for that baby that I think a few of us are thinking is going to happen, where Moose most likely would be the person to take the title off of Kenny in the long run. I still don't think he's going to win the 6-man match just because I think that's way too soon.
Okay.
This is the second person who Callis has tried to talk to, saying and warn them about trying to make it in this match. Last week he did it to Sami Callihan. Callahan basically refused to call him, look at Callis in the eye. He refused to acknowledge him as Don. Kept on calling him the Jackal after his name in ECW, and basically just said that you're poisoning Impact, and somebody is going to take it off of Kenny, and somebody's going to get it away from you. It's going to be me. I think personally, we'll get into it after this match, but final match, Moose versus James Storm. I don't think any of us thought that this was going to be a bad match. This was fantastic to end the show.
Right.
This was great.
Yeah,
I thoroughly
two great
enjoyed this.
workers. Moose impresses me more and more every time. I was definitely lower on him going into Impact, like since we started watching it again last year. But he's definitely showing that he's an all around good wrestler.
Yeah, Moose reminds me a lot of Gallows, where he's a very big guy. Sometimes he just doesn't care. His character might be just very monotone, but when he cares, he's top notch. And
Really top notch. Yeah.
yeah, I think hard to kill. He showed that a lot, and this match again showed that he when he cares, he is one of the best right now. Who's not signed to either AEW or WWE. He is fantastic. I think the big question will be this summer: does he resign with Impact? Because there's still there hasn't been an announcement. Impact doesn't really release we've re-signed this person or anything. Most companies, to my knowledge, really don't do that too much. Other than Ring of Honor,
Okay.
who basically whenever they've re-signed somebody, they make an announcement about it. But I can't WWE doesn't say we've re-signed Seth Rollins to a multi-year deal or something like that.
Yeah. Typically, it can get leaked from a different source,
Right.
but
Yeah. Normally you'll hear people like Meltzer's, Fightful, uh, Inside the Ropes, all that. They'll be like, "Oh, it's uh, Rhino has 4 months left on his deal, or his deal ends midway through 2021, or something like that." And at the beginning of the year or the end of last year, Meltzer and Fightful both released lists of people in Impact and how long their time is with the company.
right.
Callahan and Eddie both ended. Were supposed to end in April. Both of them are still on TV, so I'm assuming they're still with the company or they re-signed. Moose was reported to be either June or July, depending on what list you looked at. So if he resigns, I believe I will still say that he's going to be the guy to take the title off of Kenny. If he doesn't resign, I think that he's proven enough with this run in Impact that he is somebody that you could go and entrust in either AEW or Impact, or AEW or WWE. I don't know if he'd go.
Yeah,
But
I don't know where his heart would be if he wants to wrestle somewhere outside of Impact.
yeah, because he's another one of those guys who's like when he started wrestling, he did not care about wrestling. Like he just did it because he didn't have he didn't have professional football anymore.
Right,
Um,
right.
and so like people were just like, try professional wrestling. You can make a lot of money in it, and that's what he did. Um, so if money is what it's about, I'm sure he would jump at the opportunity to go to AEW or WWE. If not, then and he really just cares about being the best wrestler that he can, maybe he sticks with Impact. Because I can't, with how good he is, I can't see WWE not knocking to bring him into NXT.
Yeah, they'd probably try to offer him, but that's the thing. I don't know how much money he's making in Impact now.
Yeah,
If he
that's
gets
the
an
thing
NXT
too.
deal, it's like he's not gonna. He might not make the same money. He might be taking a pay cut, and he's probably not interested in that at this like stage of his career.
That's true. Um, But yeah, Moose ends up picking up the win with a great spear because again, I will say it over and over again every time he hits it. It is one of the best spears currently in wrestling. Storm kept on throughout the match having like a knee issue because Moose was just working on his knee and his ankle the entire match. The ref threatened to throw the match out, or not throw the match out, but call the match for ref stoppage because he didn't think that Storm could stand on it at points. And at the end of the match, Storm is basically begging the ref to not throw the match out, not call it. And he stands up, and Moose just nails him with the spear for the win. And yeah, Moose moves on. So our 6-man at Under Siege is Moose, Trey Miguel, Chris Sabin, Matt Cardona, Sammy Callahan, and Chris Bay.
Do we want to bring up though after the match how Moose did hurt James Storms more?
Yes. So
Yeah,
after the match, um, Moose grabs a chair. He threatens to hit the ref with it. The ref runs away, and then he does put the chair around James Storm his leg and stomps on it. And as Chris Sabin is like running out to plead with him, and Chris Sabin gets in front of him to be like, "Don't do it again," and Moose walks out. Yes, I think this clearly he's still a heel,
right, right.
but I kind of think this is more just Moose trying to manipulate or just trying to get in the head of his other competitors to be like,
Yeah, and he
this is what I'm capable of, especially with Chris Sabin, since Sabin wasn't out there. Be like, this is what I can do to your best friend. This is what I can do to you, type thing. I don't think Moose is gonna be babyface right away. Like I said, I don't think
yeah.
Moose is gonna win this match at Under Siege.
Okay.
Um, I think most likely you're going to have interference since it's a no DQ match. You're going to have interference by the Good Brothers and Kenny at some point during the match, I'd assume, because Kenny, being the cowardly heel that he is, and being like the I want to control who can win, who faces me. I think he's going to try to dictate it. So like Chris Bay or Cardona or Trey is the person to face him. Like somebody
That's a good
he
point.
looks at that's lower than him. I realistically I think the two people that can win this match. I don't see Sabin. Although I think that'd be a very fun match. I think that the two people are Sammy Callahan and Trey. Just because I think Trey is kind of on that like he's too big, I guess, right now for the X division. Not big enough to be the main event star. So I think having him on an Impact Plus show going against Omega would be fine.
Yeah, that's a
Uh,
good point.
and Sammy's already kind of ticked off with the Elite and Omega after last week, how they assured him of getting a clean victory. where he was about to Eddie, and they just knocked him because they didn't want to face Eddie, and they didn't want to. They just wanted to interfere to try to get them both thrown out. Um, so those are my two guesses. I think Moose is long term because again, I don't see Omega losing this title for a while.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably right that Omega's gonna be holding on to this for a while. It feels like Moose is the favorite, but you're probably right in the sense that this is a no DQ match. This you should expect some sort of interference to make sure Moose doesn't win, and probably have the focus on that as well. Like make sure that he was interfered with, so that he still has a reason to get a title match down the road.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of with Moose winning this is Moose is not resigning, and they're just gonna give him his title program, let him lose, and then he disappears. That's the
Yeah,
only thing I can think of.
this probably is giving them an outlet if they haven't signed him yet already. They're probably negotiating now, so this kind of gives him an outlet. Like if he signs, he doesn't win here. If he doesn't sign, he wins here. And that's his moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
good point.
the one interesting thing is most likely this show is taped already. So since it is an Impact Plus show, they normally tape those in
Okay,
advance,
so
and they
you
already
think
did
this?
they
Yeah.
did the tapings for at least the next month. The 2 days after, I believe they did 3 days of tapings after Rebellion. My assumption is this show's already taped in its entirety.
Okay, so
So I'm
yeah,
very interested to see that, like they would know like if he's signing, if he's not signing at that
yeah,
point, I'd
gotcha,
assume.
gotcha.
Um, so yeah. Other than that, going into next week, Angelo, who do you think is a six man, the winner of the six man for the X division number one contendership?
I mean, AC Romero, hands down. That's my vote. I want him in there and crushing X division souls like Abyss
Wait,
did back in the day.
he has to win it, right?
Yeah,
He have Josh Alexander lose on his second defense to AC
to
Romero.
AC Romero, please do it
Um,
for the brand.
yeah, I think that's the interesting thing. Like I said that I thought like I wanted a PD
That was
Williams match. Like I said that once Alexander won, that I thought PD should get a title shot just because like PD's the guy that got brought in by Josh, so like to thank him, be like, hey, we
yeah,
can just
it
have
would
like
be
a match
cool
against each other. But the fact they threw in Phantasmo was a huge wrench in here for me
for his second
because like
match.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a scramble match, so you could have some shenanigans show up. I, I don't know. I'm interested to see this because
I guess it probably similarly to what we're saying with Moose. Like, how long is El Phantasmo going to be here?
yeah,
If he's
that's
only
that
going to, if he's
that
here just for like one set of tapings, sure, he wins here. Faces Josh Alexander. Alexander does like an ankle lock and rips off the boot or something, and wins the match that way.
yeah. So my thinking is that Phantasma is going to be around for quite some time,
Okay.
solely because there's like as of right now, there's nothing really needed in the junior division for New
Japan.
Japan.
Yeah. Okay.
Like there's not like a big tournament coming up for them. Like there's normally best of super juniors because of the Olympics. Nobody knows what their schedule is for the summer still because normally like the summers when they do the G1, but they moved the G1 last year because of that and because of the pandemic afterwards since they postponed the Olympics to this year. They still haven't made an announcement about that, so no idea. Um, like they
That's a good
still haven't
point.
hinted about like are they gonna move the G1 back to the fall again, or is that just gonna be June and July up until the Olympics? Um, the other thing is that Japan is still on the up and up, or not the up and up, but still getting pretty devastated for their terms with the coronavirus uptick and not getting vaccines. And we have officially had the first 2 confirmed cases of coronavirus within the New Japan locker room this week,
Oh wow.
which is wild.
They've been very good
Yeah,
about it.
yeah. So it affected their last their big shows this week, where the second night of Wrestling Dontaku, they had to pull the junior title match because one of they didn't reveal who the people were that have it. They just
Okay.
said 2 people have it, but they pulled 6 competitors from wrestling. They pulled Kazuchika Show and Yo of Chaos. Yo being the challenger for El Desperado's New Japan junior title, and then they pulled Minoru Suzuki, Desperado, and I think Kanemaru of Suzuki-gun, because they just didn't have anything for any of these guys. Like, whoever wasn't involved in the match or who didn't have coronavirus, they just didn't have
Yeah.
anything to do for the opponents. So yeah, we don't know who the 2 people are, but my assumption is that Sho and Yo, because they're a tag team, they'd be the 2 people most likely to get it, just because they're they're together and wrestling a lot.
Fair.
Would be my assumption. But yeah, it's wild to think that it's been like a little over a year and like 3 months since lockdown started to happen. And for this being the first confirmed case in the New Japan locker room is just insane that they were that lucky.
Yeah, seriously.
So yeah, I don't know. They haven't really announced anything else about future plans for the summer. I think that like they've got
Okay.
shows booked till the end of May, and normally they'd like announce like their schedule up until May, the beginning of May was announced like February, and then like I want to say beginning of April they announced the rest of May, but they haven't announced anything yet. And I assumed that like after Wrestling Dontaku, they were going to announce like the summer plans because it's their big show, their next big show.
Usually is, yeah.
But they do have another Tokyo Dome show they're doing, which is rare that they're doing 2 Tokyo Dome shows in a year.
Okay.
So my guess is that's where they're going to make the announcement of what's going on throughout the summer. But yeah. Other than that, Angelo, how do you feel about this week's episode? What would you give it?
I'm giving this a thumbs up. It was pretty solid matches, move storylines. Swinger's Palace. Johnny Swinger was incredible this time. So yeah, it was a thumbs up for me.
Yeah, I'm giving it a thumbs up as well. I'm glad to see Swingers Palace still exists after a few weeks with not having it.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
it's good to have it back. It's good to see that Swingers firing on all
I think this is
cylinders.
the first time I'm going to care what happens next week to Alicia Edwards.
Yeah, I need to see what the job he's given her is.
Yeah,
I hope she's
exactly.
just Swingerella 4.
Please.
Um, so yeah, we'll be back next week. Pat and Joey, or just Pat. I don't know what their thing is. I don't know what Joey's work schedule is next week, but they'll be back with a Dynamic Dynamite review. Me and Angela will be back on Thursday with another Impact Power Hour, and might be back after again Under Siege over the weekend next week. So yeah, be sure to follow Deep Six on Twitter at Deep Six Wrestling. It's wrestling without the G at the end. Follow us on YouTube at Deep Six Wrestling. And again, subscribe, share our podcast on any of the platforms. Links are in the description, and we're also putting them all out on YouTube, so you can listen to them on YouTube if you want, or share them on YouTube, whatever you want.
Indeed.
But we will be back next week. Enjoy your night.
Thanks for listening.